How do you celebrate success as an author? On today's episode, we're going to talk about how critical it is that authors celebrate success, why that's so important, and I'm going to share a couple of thoughts on what that looks like for me. Let's get into it. Hello, hello. Welcome into today's episode. I am so glad you're here watching or listening. I recently celebrated a birthday and I love birthdays. If you have any guesses as to my age, I would invite you to submit them over. If you're watching on YouTube, drop them in a comment below. Please be kind. But if you get it right, I'll let you know. I'm curious, how old do you think, what birthday do you think I just celebrated? I love birthdays. I love celebrating. I love everything about birthdays. I love going to parties. I love encouraging people. I love reminding people that I care about them and celebrating their life. And I certainly, birthdays represent an opportunity to eat cake. And I don't know what your stance is on this, but I am extremely pro cake, and I hope that you are too. But one of the biggest reasons why I love birthdays is because they give you an opportunity to kind of take stock of how things are going in your life, how far you've come, and you really have that moment to celebrate the life that you've been given, the accomplishments that you've made, the things that have happened to you in the past year. And it also kind of gives you an opportunity to look forward, maybe set some goals or think about things you could do differently. I do this all the time on my birthday, and not just on birthdays, but birthdays is one of the moments in the year where I typically do a lot of self-reflection. And I like to start by looking back and celebrating what God has done in the last year, what I've been able to accomplish, things of that nature. I also do some goal setting, but that's not for today's episode. Today is all about celebrating. And so just the same way that I celebrate birthdays, I want to encourage you to celebrate your success as an author, because frankly, writing a book is really hard. And I don't know about you, but it is pretty easy for me to think about how far I still have to go. It's easy for me. I don't have to do a lot of work to think about the opportunities that I've missed or the words that I have not written yet, or, kind of how far ahead someone else is and how far behind I perceive myself to be. Those types of thoughts for me come pretty naturally. I don't have to, those are almost like the default mode for me when it comes to writing. I don't have to work hard to get to, oh, I've still got so much to do. I'm still far away from my goals. Those thoughts are a lot easier. Those are kind of almost like my reflex mode, is kind of like, how do I get better? Where do I have to go? What do I have to do? Maybe you're that way too. What's a little bit harder for me sometimes is to look back and think about, wow, I've really made some progress here. I've come a long way. I've done a lot of things. This book is really starting to take off. And yeah, maybe I've got some things that I still need to do in the future, but man, it has been incredible to think about how far I've come in the past month, 6 months, 18 months, right? And so that's what it's all about today. It is so important to celebrate your success in writing, because A, writing's hard, and B, for a lot of us, celebrating success doesn't always come natural. But it is critical, because in celebrating those successes, we are going to remind ourselves of the progress that we're making, and it will continue to spur us on into the future. And so if you know anything about writing books, maybe you've written one already or you're in the process of writing one now, you know it's a long process. You know there's going to be some dark nights of the soul that you're going to have to persevere through. And I believe one of the ways you do it is by celebrating your success along the way. So what does that look like? Well, I'll share a couple of thoughts on kind of how I do that, what that looks like in my world, in the hopes that maybe it will help you celebrate your success as well. And by the way, you may be listening to this thinking, hey, I'm just getting started, or I'm not a great writer. I don't really have any success to celebrate. Nonsense. You do. And it may not be these huge milestones that you think about, but if you're writing at all, that is even itself worth celebrating. And so don't feel like your work is not significant enough or you're not far enough along. That is a trap. That is a mindset hurdle. That is imposter syndrome and fear speaking to you, and just reject that outright because it's not true. But here's kind of what celebrating success in writing looks like for me. As a reminder, I'm working on my debut novel. I started doing this probably a year and a half ago, and I'm on draft. I think I'm on draft number 5, guys. It's been quite a process. I'm learning a lot along the way. I think I'm getting close to what hopefully, knock on wood, will be kind of a not a final draft, but like the final draft before I get this to some readers and start getting real feedback and getting it to an editor. So More to come on that. I'll share more on that in a different video. But one of the things that I've learned is, again, it's a long process, it's a hard process, and it's really important to celebrate along the way. So one of the things that I believe is critical if you're going to celebrate your success in writing is that you track your progress. A lot of writers do this already. And a lot of the software that you use, like, so for example, I use Scrivener. It helps me kind of keep a word count. Google Docs, I think, has a word count thing as well. Like, there's certainly ways you can do this. But if you're not tracking your progress, you are never going to be able to see growth. You're never going to be able to see success or to see milestones that you're eclipsing because you're not keeping track of what's going on. And so, again, I don't know what works best for you. I don't know what type of person you are, but for me, one of the things that's really important is tracking progress visually. So again, I know a lot of the softwares will do your word counts for you, but for me, I love having a visual reminder of either things like word count or days writing. So if you've got a calendar, this is kind of an age-old thing that I know a lot of people do. Maybe you set out to write 5 days a week. You've got your calendar on your wall or in your desk. Not on your phone. I'm thinking like a paper thing that you can walk by and look at. Maybe you do a check mark for every day that you write. Even if you only write 20 or 30 words, you still get credit for writing that day. What this does, tracking your progress visually, not only does it allow you to see progress, but it also encourages and inspires. It reminds your brain of like, hey, see how far you've already come. Look at this work you're already doing. And as you see that thing continue to grow, it's just going to get to a point where it eventually snowballs and just fuels even more productivity, even more motivation, even more inspiration. So the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is track your progress visually. So you can do this for word counts. You can do it for chapters written. You can do it days written, like however you want to measure it, but track your progress and put it somewhere where you can see it every day, not buried on your computer somewhere or hidden in an app on your phone. I want you to be able, when you sit down to write, you're able to look and see, wow, I'm really crushing it this month. I've really made, if I look back for the last 6 months, I've made so much progress and I'm so much further along from where I started. That's number one, track your progress visually. Number two, I want you to mark your milestones or mark your moments. And so when you hear that word milestones, you might think like these big, huge moments, like you finished the first draft or you've sent it off to your ARC readers. And those are absolutely big milestones that you should mark and you should celebrate. But I want you to think smaller. I don't want you to think that, hey, once I get through this 18-month process and I've got a finished first draft, now I'm finally able to mark that moment. No, I want you to scale it way back and think maybe it's just, hey, I wrote every day that I set out to write this week. Or maybe it's, hey, I've eclipsed the 1,000 word mark on my manuscript. Whatever feels like attainable for you and something that can kind of stack up. You can experiment with this and kind of figure out what's right size. Maybe it's finishing a chapter and that's your moment that you want to mark. But take a moment, even in your visual tracking, to kind of call that out separately. Maybe you put a star when you get to that date on the calendar. Maybe you write it in a different color. I'm not sure how you would do that, but like take a moment to actually mark those milestones, because yet again, this is one where you'll see one milestone stacked on top of another, and these things will accumulate and grow over time. And eventually, when you look back, you will see tons of progress. One of the people I was talking with recently has a word count tracker, and for him, it is one of those fundraiser type thermometers. I don't know if you remember these from grade school, but like you would color in as the money comes in, you would color in a certain amount and it's trying to get up to the top. I don't know why they were thermometers. Like maybe somebody can explain that to me, but that was always cool. I remember in school, like, oh, our team's going to win because we're getting closer to the, whatever the goal was for the fundraiser. Find a system that works for you and mark those milestones. And then when you accomplish those milestones, especially those big ones, reward yourself. You don't have to go crazy here, although you certainly can if you have the means to. But I love the idea of giving yourself a tangible reward for doing something. So maybe for you, that is buying a book that you've had your eye on that you want to read, but you haven't factored into your budget or whatever. Maybe that's, your trip to the bookstore that day once you've accomplished a certain milestone. Maybe it's a night out at a fancy dinner with your spouse. Maybe it could be something small. It could be a piece of chocolate, like whatever it is for you, but mark that moment and tie it to a reward. because there's really like a Pavlovian response that your brain will have. It will start to associate getting through these big milestones with that reward, with that thing that you really enjoy. So these are things that I've tried. And if you're curious what the reward is for me, oftentimes one of the rewards, the things that I like to celebrate, not just in writing, but really in any area of life. My wife and I love to get sushi takeout. That's like a huge thing for us. And so, but it's a splurge a little bit, right? So when there's a milestone that gets accomplished, that's one of the big ways that we like to mark those moments and celebrate, because now you're going to be able to look back and remember. You'll be able to see, remember that time when I got to 50,000 words. And man, we should really go out and celebrate. We should really do something to mark this moment, because there's going to be times at some point in the distant future, hopefully the very distant future, when you're struggling, when writing isn't coming easily to you, when you're getting discouraged and feeling like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. But in those moments, when you look back at all the progress you've made, when you see all the moments that you've marked and all the milestones that you've eclipsed, that can be enough fuel and motivation to have you say, no, I have made progress. I am doing this. And look how far I've come. I've got to see this through until the end. And that's what I want for you. I know it's hard, but I want you to keep going, because I believe the world needs more great stories, and you are the only person who can write yours. All right. That's it for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you celebrate your success in writing. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Let me know what are some go-to methods that have worked for you. And if you want more free writing and mindset resources and encouragement, go to my website, tcburr.com. And of course, subscribe to the channel. It's youtube.com/tcburr. All right. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep writing. I'll talk to you soon. Later.